Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Lexi and I'm a super amateur baker who loves to read. So every week I post videos of me attempting to bake while talking about a book that I have recently read or really enjoyed. Today's episode is going to be a little bit special because I have a special guest. This is my fiance Josh. He's real, he exists. And he is going to help me make my mom's sugar cream pie. And I know what you're thinking, why don't I know how to make my mom's sugar cream pie? Because I'm just now learning to bake. But Josh has made it multiple times and she has approved it, so he's going to supervise while I attempt it for the first time. We're going to talk about Throne of Glass, which is a series we have both been reading. We still have one more book to go, but we have really enjoyed the series, and so we're going to start with the first one, which is just a simple Throne of Glass, and we'll talk about that today while we bake our sugar cream pie. So let's go ahead and get started. So right now we are waiting for our oven to heat up because we need to pre-bake our pie shell. Here she is, ready to pre-bake. We're not, or I should say I'm not at the level yet where I want to try to make my own pie shells. So we're gonna use a frozen one, which is in fact also what my mom does. So we're not really going far off of the recipe. So as soon as that has baked, then we can start on the filling, which is the sugar cream portion of the pie.
Very first time I made this, I could not find a pre-baked pie shell or like a frozen pie shell to bake. So I had to frantically look for the ingredients to find how to make a pie shell from scratch.
And it was
my
not
very
easy.
first time making it. And so I was panicked the entire time I was trying to bake it. It turned out fine.
Yeah.
It was actually my best one so far.
It was
the very first one. So I feel like to start her off, we're going to use just a frozen baked pie shell.
Yeah.
And that should be good to start.
Yeah, when we feel more confident, we'll move to making our own pie shells. Okay, so we're going to start talking about Throne of Glass by giving a spoiler-free synopsis as best we can. It is part of a series. There's 7 books. I think one of them is a prequel, right? So there's 6 books in the original series. Okay, there's a lot of books in these series. But we're just going to cover the first one tonight. We haven't finished the series, as we said earlier, so we figured we better not talk about the whole series. We'll just stick with Throne of Glass. So essentially, you have the king of...
I say Adarlan or Adarlan.
Adarlan. There are a lot of names and cities in these books that I just kind of guess how they're supposed to be pronounced. So if you know for sure, we apologize in advance for butchering them. So the king of Adarlan has decided he wants his own personal assassin, and so he sends messengers out throughout his kingdom and I guess other kingdoms.
I think you're wrong. It's not about having a personal assassin. Is it about having? I thought it was just the king's champion.
Okay, but the king's champion is an assassin. I mean, it is a personal assassin for him.
So, okay.
He has armies and soldiers and like private guards, so I get the feeling that his champion is really just his own personal assassin.
We can live with that.
Okay. So he basically has people sponsor, rich people of course, different assassins from all over his kingdom and a little bit of the world beyond. And his son, the prince, Dorian, he decides to sponsor Selena, who used to be known as the assassin of Adarlan. Okay, our pie crust is in the oven, so we just bake her a little bit and we'll get going. Okay, so Selena, she used to be called the assassin of Adarlan.
Adarlan's assassin.
Adarlan's assassin. But she's currently in a really terrible prison. They're the salt mines.
The salt mines of Endovier?
Yeah.
Endovier? Something like that.
I told you we were going to butcher these.
Salt mines.
Salt mines.
She's a slave.
She's a slave, and it's really terrible. But the prince and his personal... No, not his personal bodyguard.
His best friend.
He's his best friend, but he's also the...
He's essentially Jaime Lannister. He's like the leader of the King's Guard.
Yeah, he's the captain of the guard.
The
captain of the guard is what we're looking for. Cal. We're pretty sure his name is pronounced Cal.
Cal.
I think it's Cal. Dorian and Cal go to fetch Selena. Selena is truly a fun character because she's got a lot of attitude. She's only 19, and she's already like well known as one of the best assassins in the world. So she's got a lot of attitude. She's got a lot of charisma and arrogance, you could say.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
That's the nice word for it.
That's a nice word for it. So they bring her to the palace where she's going to compete with, isn't it 12 other people?
It's a big number. It's a solid number.
Big number.
Of
other assassins.
Not necessarily assassins, though. They're not all
yeah,
assassins.
I mean, I'm sure they're not all, like, qualified assassins. But they're all wanting the same thing. They get to be the king's champion, which basically, like, erases your history, so the king grants you a pardon, you get money, you get all this
For sure you live
stuff.
in the glass castle as well, so you get just freedom and luxury.
Right. Oh! We didn't talk about the glass castle. So part of the reason the book is called Throne of Glass is because the top half of the palace is made entirely of glass. Well, the walls.
No, like a lot of it. I think it's like a stone base with glass up top. Like the bottom, because it talks about the bottom of the castle being like that traditional stone walls.
Yeah, like
very,
you would think of a castle.
And then the upper, like more fancy part of the castle is like, especially
like
the throne room,
glass,
is like this very, very like pronounced. I almost think of it as like a crystal.
Yeah,
because
that's what it kind of
if it was like a
describes
regular glass, then you just see through it. So it's more of like this very like crystal glass, like very beautiful in color.
I agree.
Something like that.
So that's why it's called Throne of Glass, because this king sits on a literal throne of glass. Okay, our pie shell is out of the oven, and so we're ready to start on the filling. And we're going to finish the synopsis, we promise. Okay, so the thing that we forgot to mention about becoming the king's champion, that's one of the reasons it's so great, is because after 4 years, if you can make it 4 years as the king's champion, you're free. That's it. Like, you're free to go. And so Selena really wants her freedom, obviously. And so she competes with what is, in fact, like 23 other people. We checked our facts. And it was a lot more people than we thought. So, of course, then not everything is easy. Obviously, you have 23 other competitors, and she is the only girl. Female power. But there's also some dark, mysterious things going on at the palace. And so
some of the contestants start turning up dead.
Yeah. And so Selena has to kind of figure out how to stop that while also surviving herself. While also, getting to know the prince more, Cal more, and one of our absolute favorites, Princess Nehemia. And so, of course, there's a little bit of magic, a little bit of death, some secrecy. It's good fun.
So, the biggest thing to mention about the story also is that for, I think it's like the last 10 to 15 years or something like that, all magic has been completely erased from Aderlan and like the whole area surrounding it.
Right. The king hated magic, or hates magic. He was like, I declare it gone. And for whatever reason, that's part of the mystery, for whatever reason, magic has been erased from the land. Nobody can do magic anymore. And anybody caught doing magic is like, it's a big no-no.
They're executed, essentially.
So like a big no-no.
Or executed. And that includes even something simple as healing magic. There's literally zero tolerance for any magic in the world. No magic. So one of the things I do think is really interesting about this book is just that Selena's just a really interesting character to follow. I really enjoy her like shenanigans. She doesn't really take crap from anybody, but she's also kind of a girly girl, surprisingly. She loves riches and fancy things. The luxuries. So she's a really fun character. The other characters are really good, and I think the mystery is pretty well written, and it's definitely a good solid start for the series. So I would say that if you're interested in reading it, just know that you do have a lot of other books to go. It's not a short series, but it's a fairly good series. And if you are planning on reading it, you probably want to go ahead and skip ahead, because from here on out, we're going to talk about more specifics into the book, and that is going to include spoilers. If you don't want that to happen to you, go ahead and skip forward. Spoiler portion of this video, what do we want to talk about first? I will say that one of the biggest hang-ups for me initially reading the story was the Selena does find both Dorian and Cal rather enchanting. Yes, so I agree. There is a big love triangle kind of going on for the first book. Yeah. Actually, pretty much the entire first book, and then a little bit in the second book too. Yeah, I would say by the time we got to the end of the second book, things had worked itself out, and it stopped being a love triangle.
Thank goodness.
But if you hate love triangles, it's definitely something that's kind of on the harder side to get through.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of my issues too, was that it was just like, they are both great characters. I can understand why she enjoys them both. But in a story where people are ending up dead and nobody knows who or what was the cause, I don't really need your love triangle. Okay? Let's save that for the romance novels.
This entire pie is literally just sugar.
Okay.
That's all it is.
But I will say one of the things that I do like is the competition portion of the book. It kind of walks you through that she has training with Cowell every day. He's really tough on her, and she trains with the other competitors. So, of course, she has some that are, like, nervous or nice to her, and then she has some, like Kane, who's...
He's a big bully.
But
the main villain,
yeah,
of the and you'd think obviously like the big evil king would be the main villain, but definitely of the first book the villain is Kane.
Yeah, the king is not like, even around that much.
He's like
honestly.
The overarching. He's definitely the big bad pulling the strings in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first book's purposes, Kane is the villain.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. He's kind of the puppet master, so he doesn't really get a whole lot of like screen time. It's mostly just, you know, his puppets do his work, and we just know he's orchestrating a lot of this. I also very much enjoy Princess Nehemia.
Yeah, she's
a really clever character. So she's almost pudding-like, which is what we want.
Yeah, needs to get a little thicker, I think.
Yeah, my mom said the key to this is patience, which I lack. So we're
very
trying.
much so.
Talk about Duke Parrington.
Okay, yeah, Duke Parrington's kind of a poop. His champion obviously is Kane, so it makes you hate him even more. You know, surprise there.
Yeah.
Where's it gonna go with that?
I don't know. Duke Parrington, he does a lot of the sketchy stuff too. Like you can tell he's just sketchy.
Yeah, and he's basically using Caltaine.
I do not like her. Like she is by far
we're starting to burn.
So we may have burned this a little bit on the bottom, and by we, me, because this is on me. But so we took it off the heat. Taking it off the heat.
It got really hot. It's supposed to be medium high.
But I like Princess Nehemia. She's really cool. She speaks a different language.
That's what
Selena.
I was saying. Parrington has Nehemia basically as like a captive. Like she's like a foreign delegate, but he's keeping her from leaving to her homeland. So
that her homeland conforms to whatever it is they want them to do.
Yeah, because Outerland, while the king has Outerland completely under control, he also has Thrasin and Elway, I think, and like he's reaching out for all these other lands.
He wants all the control. He wants to be the king of all. So he's keeping her as a captive, unfortunately. But she's really cool. Selena speaks some of her language, and Nehemia speaks some of Selena's, and so they continue to teach each other and become good friends. It's a really cute little friendship.
Well, then Selena discovers these things called word marks.
Yeah.
Or at least that Nehemia tells her are word marks, or word stones, and like this language, this ancient
There's like this
dead
whole
language.
ancient thing, and she has like that secret passageway in her bedroom. Like how coincidental is that? That like the bedroom she's staying in happens to have this secret stone passage leading down to these old tombs of like the first king and queen of Aderlin. I don't know if that's a coincidence.
It is definitely a little bit burnt. Pour that in there.
Yeah, you can see some of the little burnt pieces, but...
Oops. That's what happens when all you have is sugar and milk. Kind of burn out a little easier.
Oh yeah, you can see it on the bottom of our pan. Oh well.
It happens.
Okay, sprinkle of cinnamon, right?
Yep, sprinkle some cinnamon on top. Oh, that's a lot of cinnamon.
Alright, our pie is in the oven. A little bit burnt, a lot of cinnamon. We'll see. I mean, if it turns out terrible, then I don't know. That's life.
That happens.
Yeah, Selena starts to get advice from Elena, the original queen, the OG.
Original.
And so Elena is like, you need to do all this stuff. She doesn't really give her a whole lot of direction, but it's just kind of like, good luck.
It's vague, yeah.
Okay. And people are still dying, which is fun. But people are dying during the like tournaments too.
Yeah, there are people that I think people die during the tournaments, but then the contestants are also getting killed by some monster that is now
that
here.
Nobody knows what it is.
They're like literally being devoured and just like ripped apart by some scary monster.
I love a good mystery. I love mystery books, especially murder mysteries. So I will say that part had me a little more clinging to the book because I felt like I was really interested to know what the end result was going to be. And the end result was good with the beast that Cain could turn into. And
he didn't turn into, he summoned it out of a portal.
Oh.
And then he summoned the beast from the portal.
Right.
And down in the tombs area. In
and he could like
section.
sick it on people, essentially.
And, yeah. Well, Selena had happened upon him while he was in the process of doing that, and then was able to lock her down there with the beast, and she killed it, but it bit her.
Yeah.
Which she was like poisoned and or some sort of thing like that, and Nehemia was able to use some sort of magic or spell to, I think, heal her.
Which is when Selena learns that the weird marks...
Word
marks? I don't know.
Word
are like another form of magic.
Yeah.
And... it's
unaffected by whatever is keeping magic from being able to be used.
I mean, I feel like it's affected because it's stronger. It would be stronger if magic were able to be out and about. But because magic is shut down, it's weaker, I feel like. But it is the only form of magic.
Maybe.
And Nehemia starts to teach Selena how to read all that. Which I feel like would be a lot. Like, Selena's already trying to learn her language. And then on top of that, now she's learning this, like, dead language, essentially. True. But Selena's smart.
She's very smart.
That's the thing. She's very
Super
smart. She's very cunning. I would say she gets annoying later on in the series, for me personally. But I like her a lot in this first book. I would say every character, maybe minus some of the more minor characters, for me personally, sometimes are obnoxious and sometimes are really interesting. Like, it just sort of depends on what mood they're in, almost. Which kind of irritates me about the series in general, because I don't want my main characters to be pissing me off every other day. I mean, I want to enjoy the series. I don't want to...
I mean, if one character's deciding to be a butt for a while, that's fine. But sometimes you have multiple characters that are the focal points, and you're like, wow, you're all kind of being butts right now.
Why are you all being obnoxious right now? But I don't think you really get that in this first book, which is good. And then, of course, you know, they poison Selena before she battles
Cain poisons Selena before she battles Cain.
Selena.
Because she's still trying to be on her thing or whatever.
But then magic, honestly, that battle is a little bit, I don't know. I had a hard time reading it. I felt like there's a lot going on. It's like her and Cain are battling physically.
Yes.
And then there's also the word marks and the beasts and the magic that's coming out. It just seems like there's so much going on in that scene, which is not, for me, a very good moment in the book, because I feel like it's supposed to be the climax, but I'm annoyed by it.
So, like, Nehemia is using word magic in order to summon Elena, and Elena is trying to basically pull the poison out of her body, and the poison is causing, it's like a hallucinogenic poison of some kind, like super fast acting. Yeah. And it's causing Selena to hallucinate all of these, like, crazy, like, word beasts and demons and everything, like, kind of swirling around Cain, and he's, like, taunting her.
But that's the thing. On top of that,
and,
Cain is still coming. To finish her. Yeah, Cain is still coming at her. I just feel like it's too much for the climax of a book. I felt like
I honestly couldn't stop reading it because there was just so much happening. Like,
you could not stop in the middle. You had to finish because there was so much going on that it was almost like if you walked away from that chapter, you were going to be so confused coming back. But I don't want that. I don't know. Maybe other people aren't bothered by that, but I felt like it was too much for the final battle.
I'll admit that there was a lot going on, but I didn't really have that much of a problem with it.
There was a lot going on, and I was not a huge fan of that.
I kind of like those big explosive endings to things.
Yeah, but I mean, she wins, and Cain dies, as he should.
Well, Cain, so she beats Cain and decides to spare him. And then
because she's sometimes
it's a fight to the death. So like the people, in the final four are supposed to be or the final two, at least. Yeah. If not the final four, are supposed to be fighting to the death. Yeah. And she doesn't kill her first opponent, Graves. Right. And then she decides to spare Cain. And then as he's already defeated and like Selena's trying to recover, then Cain tries to kill Selena and Cal kills Cain, which is his
fair.
First kill ever. Has never killed another.
Which is crazy. As like the captain of the guard, like he's never had to kill another person. which I guess is good. He's kind of a soft soul.
He's a softie, and then he gets hard.
Softie. But I mean, I really think, honestly, this book almost could have stood alone in the series. Like, you could have written this book, maybe changed one thing, and one or two things, and it could have been just like a standalone book instead of a series.
Maybe. I mean, it does so much world building, though, that
it does.
You want more from it when you read it.
I don't know that I necessarily did. We definitely have different opinions on this book series. I mean, as we went, we found that we were like debate a little bit about certain characters and the way that the book series is going. But I would still recommend it. All right, our pie is almost done. We invite you back in. There will be no more spoilers. So if you have been skipping ahead, this is it. No more spoilers. Our pie is almost done. I am sorry because I feel like this was less watching me bake and more just talking about the book, but as it turns out, this pie is there's not a lot of ingredients. It's really just kind of
you dump a bunch of stuff into a pan and you stir, and then you pour it into a pie crust. That's
and
really
because he was here, he did a lot of the stirring and all of that for me. He takes care of me.
I try.
But we're almost done, and it's going to be hopefully delicious. All right, there she is. You can see my cinnamon mistakes from earlier, because it just came out way too fast. But for the most part, she's looking good. Her crust looks pretty, so not too bad. Alrighty, well, our pie is done. It's just cooling. We made it actually for Josh's parents, so we're not going to taste it right here, right now. But it does look pretty close to what it should look like.
It's a little chunkier. I think we put it on, we cooked it for a little longer in the pan. It needed to be removed a little sooner once it started getting to that pudding consistency. But yeah, other than that, once it cools off, pop it in the fridge, chill it for a while, and then once it's chilled, serve it. So we're doing okay. I think we did okay for my first attempt at my mom's sugar cream pie. She may not be too impressed with it, but she's not going to be there to taste it.
Yeah, exactly. If you have recipes that you would like me to try, I would love to hear about those down below. Please remember that I'm still an amateur baker, and I don't think I can accomplish anything too crazy. So keep your recipes pretty simple still for now, but I would love to try them out. And if you are interested, I highly recommend checking out Throne of Glass. You can look at your local bookshops or your libraries. Try to support local if you can to get this series, and if you're not really into buying, that's what libraries are for. We love libraries. I want someday to have my own personal library, so I buy everything that I read, but libraries are great, and if you're gonna buy, shop local. Would love your opinions on the book. If you've got different opinions than us, then I would love to hear that. And maybe someday in the future we'll have Josh back to talk about however many of these books in the series. We decided that there were the 7 or 8 other books that there are. There are 8. The 8 other books in the series, but we'll see. So thank you to the love of my life for helping me out today. If you had fun with us today, then please go ahead and click that subscribe button for me. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts below on the book and on my very amateur baking. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.